And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Wednesday, March 19th. I am Josh Engleman, and I'm here to break down a massive NBA slate. We have a ton of games, and the most interesting part of all of that, not only do we have a ton of games, but the slates are the same and nothing got cut. 11 games on DraftKings, as best I could tell, 11 games on FanDuel. We got the full Megillah. I would have expected DraftKings to cut the 10 o'clock games, end this slate at 9, have a pretty awesome night slate. Not that they can't still have an awesome night slate, but we got it all. So this is a massive slate. We're going to have not a lot to talk about, which probably sounds pretty weird. But on massive slates like this, it's oddly easier to talk about every game than it would be with 4 games. Because like on a 4-gamer yesterday, we had to talk about everything. You're talking about 7 guys on the Hawks, 8 guys on Charlotte, a bunch of guys on Milwaukee or Golden State. Today, that's not the case. Most teams will be getting no ownership. Most guys will be uninteresting or fine in a large field contest, but we are going to be ignoring a lot of what's going on today. I can say right now, just based on what I'm looking at, both 7 o'clock games, both 7:30 games have no ownership coming into them whatsoever. 3%, 3%, 4%, 4%. That's 14 total. That is half of Philly and OKC. And that's mostly just OKC. Basically, everything's going to the Wizards and the Thunder right now, and no one else is getting any ownership. So it is going to make for an interesting discussion, because I know you guys are going to mention everybody. And unfortunately for us today, I'm not going to have much of a take. Like, do you want to play... Who's going to be a good example? Bam Adebayo today. He's not going to look good. He's going to look like a guy that you play in like 5% of lineups. And every team is going to have like 15 of those dudes. Not to mention, we've got an overwhelming amount of injury news today. This is an amazing slate for DFS. It might sound like it's a lot. It might sound like it's too much, especially with what's going on for rotations right now. If you use the Stokastic tools, this is the type of slate that makes you money. 4 games that lock at 10, 1 at 9, 2 at 8, 2 at 7:30, 2 at 7. So you've got late swap opportunities at 7:30, late swap opportunities for 8 o'clock, late swap opportunities at 9, and a massive late swap opportunity at 10 o'clock. That's what our tools are for. That's what the late swap tool is for. All of that news will get handled for you and put you in the best possible position to win contests. If you're a DFS fan and you're looking for slates to make money, this one is set up better for you if you are inside Stokastic's paywall and you use our stuff. So that's where we're at for today. We got 11 games to work through. There are going to be spots where I'm just not spending a lot of time, but we got a lot to talk about. So like, subscribe, notification bell, all that good stuff. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. Here we go. Deep breath, guys. We're going to take a minute. Dallas Mavericks, first team up. 9.5-point underdogs in Indianapolis, taking on the Pacers. There is no ownership to Dallas, and I mean no ownership to Dallas. 1% to PJ Washington, 1% to Brandon Williams. No one else has anything higher than 0. Only PJ Washington has a optimal rate that isn't 0. So as of right now, you will not be playing Dallas Mavericks with any sort of confidence. However, Brandon Williams is questionable. Kai Jones is questionable. Jaden Hardy is questionable. Now, Jaden Hardy's missed, I think, the last 7 games with a sprained ankle. But Jaden Hardy is aggressively ahead of Brandon Williams if we're talking about a depth chart for this team. How many minutes can Jaden Hardy play today? No clue, even if he plays. Like, if he's healthy, I would not be surprised in any way if he is just starting and playing 30 minutes at which point we're probably paying a lot of attention to a $4,400 point guard shooting guard, Jaden Hardy. But we need to know if he's even available. We need to know if he's starting. But that will be the place we look at the most for anything from Dallas. If Jaden Hardy is in and starting, he will be the only thing that we pay attention to from Dallas. Remember, 11-game slate, 22 teams. Right now, the highest ranked guy from Dallas is 90th. That is close to unplayable. So we need the Jaden Hardy news. Right now, 25% of Dallas's minutes and fantasy points are currently questionable. They only have 10 guys if everyone is in. So we don't know what their true active body status is right now. We're going to need this information. But I think the guy to pay attention to will be Jaden Hardy. If Jaden Hardy doesn't play, we're probably not getting to anything from Dallas. So that is my Mavs stance for right now. We do have a 1 odd shopper rating on... Wait, I'm guessing it's over 29.5 PRA on PJ Washington on Onyx odds. Oh, and a over... Okay, so we have a 1 odd shopper rating over 28.5 on ESPN Bet and a 1 odd shopper rating on over 29.5 on Onyx odds. You can grab either one of them if you want. Just shy of a 2% EV. All right, we leave Dallas, we go to Indy. It's not much different. Again, here are the 8 ownership aggregate numbers for the first 4 games. 2, 20, 5, 17, 15, 18, 8, and 21. So, not a lot happening here. Tyrese Halliburton is questionable for Indianapolis. I don't know why I said it like that. For Indiana. Pascal Siakam is questionable as well. Johnny Furphy is questionable. Jarris Walker is questionable. It's 10% ownership to Halliburton. It's 5 to Siakam and Turner. And I don't have much to add here. Halliburton's 8,600, 11% optimal, 26% chance of 53 fantasy points. I think his ownership in that 10 to 15% range is exactly where it should be in a matchup like this. I really don't have much else to add on Halliburton. Siakam, not all that interesting. 5% owned makes sense. Miles Turner, 5% owned makes sense. But I don't know. Not a priority here if everybody's in. Now, if Halliburton or Siakam are out, well, then maybe we create a little value. If we don't have Halliburton, maybe we look at Andrew Nembhard differently. Maybe we look at TJ McConnell differently. If Siakam's not there, maybe we are going straight back to the Obi Toppin well. But I don't see anything here where I'm going to tell you guys, go out of your way to get this. Now, the Pacers' implied total is pretty interesting. 234 is essentially the highest total on the slate. 119 implied total is tied for the second highest implied total. So we're expecting a lot of scoring from the Pacers. They just don't look like any sort of priority from a DFS standpoint. Do you guys care at all about the Indiana Pacers today? I can't imagine you do. Halliburton ranks 20th. You know, make a note of that. We don't have any indie bets right now. Everything is sub 1% EV. So we're not going to be going that direction. So that's game 1. That's game 1. And get ready, because we got a lot more versions of this one. This is now probably the second worst game. Houston Rockets, 2.5-point favorites in Orlando, 210 total. This is the lowest total by 7 points. And if you want to go to the third highest game, this is the lowest total by 18 points. Nothing is really close to this one. Lord King Guru, does the Basketball Reference have bad times today? It happens from time to time where these games get rescheduled. Yeah, one of those 7:30s is not a 7:30. That's a good point. So let's see. It's Dallas and Indy at 7. Houston and Magic at 7. Pistons are at 7:30. New Orleans and Minnesota is actually at 8. It was originally scheduled for 7:30, but it's actually at 8. Sixers game at 8. Yes. Okay, so we have 3 games at 8, 1 at 7:30. Thanks for that, Lord King Guru. They move these times around, but Basketball Reference is static in my sheet. So, Houston, unowned, 5% in total. This looks a lot like Dallas. Obviously, Houston and Orlando, both incredibly talented defensively. Orlando, one of the slowest teams in the league. Houston losing 4 possessions below their average makes it pretty difficult to want to get to anything here, especially because we don't have any injury news. Amin Thompson's still out. Otherwise, we don't have anybody on the injury report for Houston. We have 3% ownership to Tari Eason. He's 3% optimal. We have 2% ownership to Alperen Şengün. He's 3% optimal. No one else has any ownership. No one else has any optimal rate. I have essentially no interest in Houston. You know, you want to play Şengün or Eason, I think they're reasonable GPP plays. I don't see a path to Fred VanVleet, to Jalen Green, to Jabari Smith, to Dylan Brooks. There's nothing here. There's nothing here. These guys don't even have yellow highlighted booms in my sheet. They couldn't even get to a 13% boom rate. What do we do here? Now, you want to get really weird? We got a massive Jalen Green bet available right now on BetMGM. 25 odd shopper rating, 6.5% EV. Oh, down to 11 odd shopper rating, 4.2% EV on ESPN bet now. That's a 6% historical ROI. We've recommended 1,300 rebound props on ESPN bet this year. 6% ROI on all of them. 4% EV on it right now. This will likely be the best bet we have in this show. So if you bet on ESPN, 11 odd shopper rating, 4.2% EV, Jalen Green under 5.5 rebounds. Cophobus. No, I am not going to go full Brokeback Mountain again on playback. We're going to go ahead and hope that that never happens again. So yeah, I have absolutely nothing that I would recommend here for Houston, and it's not really all that different on the Orlando side. Orlando, by the way, slowest pace game, in case anybody was curious, 93.3 possessions. That's 2.6 possessions slower than any other game on this slate. But for Orlando, Cole Anthony's questionable. If you have a guess of if he plays or not, or how many minutes he plays, I don't have a lean there. That's for sure. If he's in, though, it probably makes it even easier to just ignore everything aside from Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, and Wendell Carter Jr. Franz is 8% owned. Wendell Carter Jr. 6% owned. Paolo Banchero 3% owned. All 3 of those guys' optimal rates match their ownership right now. Wendell Carter Jr. ranks 26th. He plays like 30 minutes a night. He's 4,900. He's a 0.9 guy. Totally reasonable center to get to. Franz and Paolo. I mean, Franz is $1,000 cheaper than Paolo Banchero right now, and he has a shooting guard, small forward, MPE. Franz Wagner's the best guy you can get to from the Magic, but I use the term best very, very minimally. 8% optimal, 23% chance of 54 fantasy points. He ranks 31st. There's nothing here. Very little here. You get Paolo or Franz or Wendell Carter Jr., no complaints. But you're not going balls to the wall on the Orlando Magic in this spot. There's no justification for it. Do we have any Magic bets? Because that would be interesting. We do. And we got a biggie out here. KCP Under 11.5 PRA. Oh my God, that's a low PRA. And it's gone. So never mind. Got to be quick. Got to be quick. That's why you guys should have the portfolio EV tool. Attaboy, Chris. Good to see. Glad you're here, man. Glad you're here. All right, game number 3. The Detroit Pistons. 5-point favorites in Miami, 217 total. This is the second lowest total on today's slate. Not surprising. There's essentially no ownership coming into Detroit or Miami. Pistons are at full strength. We're not missing anybody, and that makes it pretty damn difficult to get to the Detroit Pistons. 5% ownership to Cade, 5% ownership to Jalen Duren. They would be the two guys that I look to first from Detroit. Clinton says, Cade dropping 50 tonight. Well, if he drops 50 tonight, you're going to wish you had somebody else because that won't be enough. 50 would be a not good fantasy score for Cade Cunningham today. And that's sort of the problem. 9,900, giant pace down spot. They lose 3.8 possessions below their average. But point guard only, 4.6x value, 3% optimal, 19% chance of scoring 60. Yeah, you want to get 5% of Cade? I think that's pretty reasonable. I don't see the justification for having much more. You need a massive score out of him today. Oh, 50 real points. Well, I hope you're betting that because that's a pretty ridiculous stance. You know, Jalen Duren, if he plays 30 minutes, is interesting, but not exactly a great matchup against the double bigs in Miami. So it's reasonable to see him be 5% owned. Dennis Schroeder, you want to take a flyer on a 4,600 guy if you don't want to get to Cade? I mean, he ranks 51st. I think we're going to have a lot better options than him by the time we get to lock. Do you guys like anything from the Pistons? I mean, we don't have bets. 1.5% EV on Duren under 11 rebounds. 1.5% EV under 8.5 points for Asar Thompson, but no major stand there. This isn't the game. This just isn't the game. Like, the 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock games all have the highest pace. 98, 99, 100. All these early games are 95, 96. But there's nothing here. There's nothing here. Look, if the highest optimal rate on your team is 3%, you're probably not all that rosterable. And we have so many places where guys are out and dudes are stepping into 20 more minutes at a minimum salary that these teams that don't have anybody out and are just priced appropriately are death on these slates. Yeah, like, are you going to be surprised if, like you guys can see on the screen right now, there's 133% total boom to Detroit. That means one of these guys is going to hit their target score. Does Beasley have 35? Does Tim Hardaway have 30? Does Tobias Harris have 38? Like, one of these guys is going to do that. But all of them look the same in terms of like their chances of doing it. So there's no separation for anything here from the Pistons. The Miami side is essentially not any different. We are waiting on a little bit of injury news, though, for the Heat. Andrew Wiggins is questionable. That will make you feel better about certain dudes from Miami, but what is rattling in my room? Anyway, 2% ownership to Hero, 2% ownership to Bam. So we're not really looking that direction. Not a lot of ownership coming into Andrew Wiggins. I don't think we're really looking in that direction. I think there's one guy that's at least mildly interesting for Miami, and that's Jaime Jaquez, who's been playing real minutes over the last few games for the Heat. I know that the moment we think he's playing real minutes is the moment they rip the rug out from under us, but 31, 27, and 30 over the last 3. Got him in for 28 today at 4,100, small forward only. 9% optimal, 30% chance of 31 fantasy points, ranks 22nd. He's 10% owned, and he actually deserves it. He is 9% or 10% owned right now. I agree. I actually got 9%. I ran a sim before this show started, and have 150 lineups in here. I didn't touch on it while we were doing it. I didn't have a share of Dallas. I had 9% of Halliburton and no more than 2% of anybody else. On Houston, I didn't have any more than 1%. On Orlando, I didn't have anything more than 5%. On Detroit, I didn't have anything more than 1%. I am getting nothing from these guys. But I did get close to 10% on Jaime Jaquez. He would be the guy that I have my eye on. After that, like if Wiggins is out, can you get to anything else from Miami? Probably not. To me, Miami is Jaime Jaquez and no one else. And you'd honestly really hope that Wiggins doesn't play so you can feel a little bit better about it. But again, this is not a priority spot. And I see very little for us here. No Miami bets right now. 0.4% EV on Hero PRA. So we're going to dodge that. And we're going to keep it moving to game number 4. Another game with absolutely no interesting things going on. The New Orleans Pelicans are 12.5-point underdogs in Minnesota, 228 total. There's no ownership to New Orleans. I got 2% of Jose Alvarado and nothing else. Pelicans are now without Trey Murphy, torn labrum, so he's going to miss the rest of the year. The hits just keep on coming for this New Orleans team, man. They can't buy a bucket. I don't know why I said buy a bucket. They can't buy good luck. So for the Pels, the highest optimal rate for anybody on New Orleans is 4% to Jose Alvarado. Now it's 12 to him on FanDuel, so a little bit more interesting there. But what do you do here for the Pels? It's like you would think Trey Murphy is going to open something up, but I think these guys are just going to be largely flat in their minutes. And that's not creating anything here. Like I said, I didn't get a share of Alvarado. I expect Bruce Brown to step into a lot of the minutes from Trey Murphy. 4,100 shooting guard, small forward. Like, this is the problem with March basketball and all of the guys that sit. Because Bruce Brown's going to step into a little bit more playing time. Now, he's not a good per minute guy, but the position is great today. The role is great today. The price is great today. But there's going to be 20 different versions of Bruce Brown that have much better value than this. So even in a situation where he should look good, he's 1% optimal and ranks 88th. So if I'm going to anything from the Pelicans, it may be Alvarado, but I'm not actually going to anything from the Pelicans. Again, 2% of Alvarado and nothing else. So if you guys like anything from the Pels, let me know. Jellybean, neither. The talent's already here. I thought this was a 50-win team before the season started. DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Zion. I mean, this is they're like an actual good team. There's just nobody available. Hell, they might have Cooper Flagg next year. Ooh, we got an 8 odd shopper rating on CJ. Now, we do want to pump the brakes here. It's on ESPN bet. 4% EV, under 4.5 assists, but they haven't been the best on ESPN. About 1,000 bets. They've been neutral so far this year. Given the odd shopper rating, I'm at least a little bit more interested in it. But if you want to go that direction, it's under 4.5 assists on CJ McCollum. Let's run a tankathon. I can't help myself sometimes. Alrighty. The winner of today's lottery on Tankathon is The San Antonio Spurs acquire Cooper Flagg. They jump 7 spots to the number 1 pick. Sign me up for that one, man. Sign me up for that one. But yeah, there's nothing here, guys. There's nothing here. Maybe if the starting lineup changes a little bit, you know, Jordan Hawkins is only 3,400, but you need a lot of minutes. He's a bad per minute guy. It would be sick because of Flagg and Wemby. You could have De'Aaron Fox. I'm good. They're going to rue that trade. They are going to rue the day they made that trade. I'm very anti De'Aaron Fox's future in San Antonio. I think they made a mistake. It was a good trade. Like, they didn't give up a ton, so that helps. The cupboard is still packed to the brim with assets, but I think they made a mistake. All right, Minnesota side of this one. Equally unowned. Absolutely no injury news. This is a team that runs a 8.5-man rotation, essentially. And 5% ownership to Ant is the most of anybody on DraftKings. Oh, run the bases. No, that is not what I'm saying. I am also very anti Stephon Castle. No, that I didn't mean that one either. Fox will be a great third option. I don't know, maybe. I don't like it. 5% optimal, 5% ownership to Ant. He ranks 37th. I got 5%. Yeah. I think Ant is interesting here at 9,400 and shooting guard only, but I'm not confident he's any sort of priority. 4.8x value. Can you get him? Sure. Like, is he any different than Halliburton today? No. Not to me. You got Tyler Hero out there, same thing. Deuce Trey, if Fox is a first option, then you're the Sacramento Kings and you don't win shit ever. He's not even remotely close to it. If De'Aaron Fox is your first option, you have a play-in team. You just do. So he's not even in the ballpark of a first option, unless your team sucks. Not that skill set. Not even close. You will not be good. I mean, think about it like this. Let's say this. Let's say there are 30 first options that exist in the league. In theory, every team can have one first option. Now, I'm not saying that every team does have a first option. You know, you look at a team like Phoenix. Yes, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant are both first options, even on, like, independent of their current teams. If you rank the guys that you think are first options in the league, you're going to be pretty far down the list before you get De'Aaron Fox. Having the 24th best first option is a real recipe to have 32 wins every year. You got to remember, like, we think about what De'Aaron Fox is, but when you start comparing these guys to the rest of the league, you fall down pretty damn quick. Do you guys like anything from Minnesota? Because I don't. Other than Ant. And I don't even like Ant. He's just, you know, he's Ant. Run the Bases says, Josh, who do you think is the best option to run point guard for them? Okay, these are two separate questions. Are you asking me, like, who I would have gotten or who on their roster is the best? Because Fox is the answer to that question. Well, I mean, if we're being honest, I think Chris Paul is the answer to that question, but that's not a long-term decision. If you mean who's on the team, yeah, it's Fox. 100% it's Fox. I'm just not a huge Fox guy. So I see where your question was going there. Lord King Guru. Devin Booker has a plus 3.5% offensive VPM 60% true shooting on 28% usage. You can tell me that Phoenix is losing and stuff, but if you're looking at that and you think that's not a first option, I don't know how you look at De'Aaron Fox and think anything else. The Phoenix Suns are not bad because of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Is Kevin Durant a different guy now? Sure. But 28% usage and a 64% true shooting is way better than De'Aaron Fox. These guys are carrying 80th percentile true shooting rates at 28% usage. What conversation are we even having here? De'Aaron Fox, by the way, 56% true shooting, 44th percentile, same as last year, 28% usage. De'Aaron Fox is multiple steps behind Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. Inarguable. What team do I see Fox being good at? Kind of a loaded question. Like, it's not that I don't think De'Aaron Fox is good. I don't think De'Aaron Fox is good as people think De'Aaron Fox is. Like, I'm not saying that I don't think Fox is good on San Antonio either. I just would have spent my assets slightly differently. But they didn't give up a lot, so I don't hate that trade for them. But I am not a big De'Aaron Fox guy, just in general. He's had really weird statistical outliers that make... we're doing this, I guess. So this is De'Aaron Fox, right? I want to go through the things that have, like, clouded people's judgment. So 3 years ago, the 2023 season, that was like the breakout season that got everybody talking about De'Aaron Fox. 60% true shooting. It was his best year by far. De'Aaron Fox shot 75% at the rim that year and 32% from three. His season got saved by disproportionately making everything he threw up when he got in the paint. That's a 95th percentile outcome for a 6'3" guard. You don't see that. And that's why you saw it fall back down to 65% last year, 65% this year. He had an outlier rim season and that popped off. When it fell back down, he got saved because he shot 37% from three last year. He never does that. 31, 32, 30, 32, 29. So he made up for the shittier rim finishing last year by disproportionately making more threes. Now this year, the rim shooting is just normal again. He can't make a three to save his life. So now he's inefficient again. Again, still like him. He's been worth 6 wins this year. That's a $30 million player with a couple weeks left in the season. De'Aaron Fox is, like, properly paid and, you know, like, not a problem, but he is not what everybody thinks he is. He's like 10 spots below where everybody's consensus is. Still good. You know, like, we're talking about a guy that's a plus 1.4 EPM guy. Like, you're going to be a $35-40 million dude in that scenario. I don't know how we could talk about Devin Booker and Kevin Durant as if they're not anything other than easily better than De'Aaron Fox. All right, you guys ready to talk about the team we need to talk about? That would be the Oklahoma City Thunder. However, we are starting it off with the Philadelphia 76ers. 10-point underdogs in Oklahoma City, 230 total. This is a game. So for Philly, Adam Bona is out. Andre Drummond is out. Obviously, Paul George done for the year. Maxey out. Kelly Oubre doubtful. Lonnie Walker out. Yabusele is questionable. Now we're getting 15% ownership to 6K Jared Butler. He's point guard, shooting guard eligible. Projected for about 30 minutes. I think he makes some sense today. I only got to 9%, but he is 13% optimal, 16% owned. The guy you're going to here for Philly is Jared Butler at 6K. 10 to 15% makes a ton of sense, ranks 17th. After that, probably not going to anything else. Now, if Yabusele ends up out, maybe we're paying a little bit more attention to O'Shea Brissett or Alex Reese. We're going to need that news. You could take like a 5% share of Ricky Council. I think would be fine. I know you guys are going to, I can already see chat starting to talk about Quentin Grimes. I'll have 0. There's no chance I play Grimes. 8,600, point guard, shooting guard eligible. I don't care what he's been doing. There's no way I'm playing Quentin Grimes at 8,600. I'm very happy for him. I am a Quentin Grimes guy. Like, he's a dude I would want on my team. I think he's been underrepresented in the league for 2 or 3 years now. That said, no matter how good he's playing right now, I am not a long-term believer in what Quentin Grimes is doing. He has every opportunity to continue it. Do not get me wrong here. It's been great to see. 8,600 is a bridge too far for me here. So I can't do it. I can't do it. It's really Jared Butler and not much else here. Jellybean, it's on the screen, man. 7,900 for Grimes on FanDuel. Shooting guard, small forward eligible. 1% optimal, 10% boom, 1% owned, ranks 109th. Jared Butler's 40% owned on FanDuel. It's Butler and Butler only. But yeah, there's no chance that you could go to Quentin Grimes like this. You just can't do it. I don't see the justification in any way. I know you guys are gonna want to do it, but you can't. You can't. All right. What has Quentin Grimes done with like all the relevant offensive players off the floor? 168 minutes, 36% usage, 63% true shooting, 1.5 DraftKings point per minute for Grimes with Maxey, Oubre, and Paul George off. Like, do I think 36% usage is going to stick around? Yes. Do I think 63% true shooting is going to stick around? Hell no. That's not even in the ballpark of something that can continue to happen. If Quentin Grimes is a 62% true shooting guy, that dude's going to make $40 million a year moving forward. He ain't that guy. And I say that as a guy that likes him quite a bit. Yeah, 0% Quentin Grimes is the recommendation. I don't see any justification to having a single lineup with Quentin Grimes. Yeah, I said it. We're going to have some ownership to this next game, though. You guys ready for the first actual thing to talk about? Here they are. Oklahoma City. This is the priority, one of the 2 priority teams of the day. Unavoidable. This is where the ownership is going. Because Ousmane Dieng is out. Lou Dort is out. Shea is out. The good Jalen Williams is out. El Flacco. If Grimes goes over 70, am I going to eat my words? No. It has nothing to do with the actual performance. I could care less what anybody does once I place my lineups. The actual performance is irrelevant. No, I won't eat my words. He's a terrible DFS play today, regardless of what he does. I will never play him today. 0% chance. 0. By the way, for OKC, Q-tag Cason Wallace, Q-tag Isaiah Hartenstein. This could look even more ridiculous as we go. Here is the ownership on OKC right now. They have 4 guys in the top 10. They have 6 guys in the top 14. 25% ownership to Cason Wallace. 50% ownership to Chet. 25 more to Aaron Wiggins. 20 to Isaiah Joe. 30 to Isaiah Hartenstein. 50 to Kenrich Williams. And 5 to Alex Caruso. Immense Evans, everyone will still play him. No one will play him. No one will play him. He will be fully unowned Completely unowned. It won't even be a conversation. He will have likely 1% ownership. Without question. What was his price tag last time out? Anybody remember? How much did it go up? I'm assuming it went up. Let me take a look. Quentin Grimes was 8,100 last time out. So $500 price increase. He's going to be 1% owned. 1%. OKC, on the other hand, a lot more than 1%. I think $3,200 power forward center eligible Kenrich Williams is your number one guy from OKC. The minutes are just going to be there. He played 19 last time out with only Dort out. He played 31 with Chet and Wiggins out on the 15th. Played 22 on the 12th with no Caruso. Now we've got like 4 dudes out. Kenrich Williams is the guy I want the most. Close to a fantasy point per minute, 3,200, has power forward eligibility. Ken, he was 5% owned on Monday. He was 5% owned on Monday. So Kenrich Williams is the first guy I want. Chet is the second guy. 7,600 power forward center eligible. Got him in for 30 minutes. He played 35 and 34 in his last 2. 50% optimal. 47% chance of 48 fantasy points. Ranks 3rd overall. I want a ton of Kenrich Williams and Holmgren. If Locke were right now, both of those guys would be guaranteed to be in a cash game lineup. Completely. I would say my next preference would be Cason Wallace. However, Cason Wallace is questionable, so we got to make sure that he's even playing today. 27% optimal, 23% owned, 4,300, 0.85 fantasy points per minute, 6.4x value. All 3 of those guys are just going to be in a shit ton of my stuff. I have 75% of Kenrich. I got 50 of Chet. I got 35 of Cason Wallace. I got another 25 of Isaiah Hartenstein, who's questionable at 6,400. He looks great. I've got another 25 of Aaron Wiggins, small forward, power forward eligible at 5,100. He looks great. Jeremy Savage, no. No, he was not. And what's really crazy, he was a better play by the time we got to lock and through late swaps than he even was on the strategy show. So it got even worse, and then it happened. Isaiah Joe is 20% owned, 4,300 shooting guard eligible. Joe played 30 and 33 minutes in his last 2 games. Only have him in for 28. He looks great. Every single one of these guys is heavy, heavy priorities because of no SGA, no Dort, no Usman Jang, no Jalen Williams. There's just infinite value for Oklahoma City. So now, finally, all I want you guys to let me know is, what do you like the most here from Oklahoma City? I want to know what you guys are looking at. Where are you looking? And let's assume Wallace and Hartenstein play for right now. If they don't, we're just getting more of somebody at that point. Got a couple bets as well. Cason Wallace under 3.5 assists, has a 4 odd shopper rating on DraftKings. Chet under 32.5 PRA also has a 4.5 or has a 4 odd shopper rating on DraftKings. I think he looks, I mean, I would take both of those bets for sure because they've got good historical ROI, but yeah, we got 2 decent OKC bets right now on the DK side. Let's see. Here we go. Wiggins, Chet, Wiggins, Chet and Kenrich, Case and Wallace, Chet and Wiggins, Joe, Chet and Wiggins. Interesting. Yeah, Jellybean, I'm with you. Kenrich with the power forward center at that price tag, given everybody being out, he's a tough avoid today. And you get one more of those dudes out, and it's even worse. But this is the primary team. 196% optimal. You're expecting two guys from OKC in the optimal lineup. 280% boom. You're basically expecting three of these guys to have good performances relative to their salary. They're 200% owned. It's the most owned team on the slate. This is the priority, guys. If Kenrich gives me 20, I'm happy. Jonathan, if Kenrich gives you 20, he failed. He failed. All right, game 6. New York Knicks. 8.5-point favorites in San Antonio. 230 total. Best of luck to you today, Coach Chris. I'm going to start not paying attention to things you say. 15% ownership coming into Josh Hart. 15% ownership coming into Mikal Bridges. 25 coming into Karl Anthony Towns. This is actually a team we could talk about. They're not the priority team, but they're like the first non-priority team that looks good. Because, matchups against San Antonio are incredible. They're jamming these guys out there and not playing anybody off their bench. First guy I'm looking at here is Towns. We clearly have all the money in the world to pay up if we need to. 9,900, center only. It's Bismack Biyombo on the opposite side, or Sandro Mamukelashvili, or Jeremy Sohan. All of that looks good for Towns. 20% optimal, 25% owned, 35% chance of 60 fantasy points. Towns ranks 12th. I think Towns is your best Nick, but Josh Hart's pretty close. 8K, small forward, power forward eligible. 17% optimal, 15% owned. It feels like he's just going to have like 11, 10, 3, and 2. The way that he gets there is just wild. It's a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy here. Towns and Hart look like really good plays today. Mikal Bridges is fine in that 10 to 15% range. He's 6,300, shooting guard, small forward eligible, solid value. I'll be playing a decent chunk of Knicks. I got to 20% of Hart, 20% of Towns, just shy of 10 on Bridges and McBride, a little bit of Anunoby. I like the Knicks quite a bit here against San Antonio. It's a neutral pace matchup. San Antonio's defense is awful. That's a real big benefit for them. So yeah, the Knicks look good. We don't have a ton of teams that look like the Knicks do today, so I want to make sure that I'm hitting on them because I think they are like the best non-overwhelming owned team today. What do you guys like from the Knicks? One odd shopper rating on McBride on DraftKings is nothing crazy. Josh Hart filling the stat sheet, going to Towns. Spoonie Love wants Cat. Steven wants Cat. Ryan wants Bridges. Yeah. Same page, guys. Same page. They don't look bad today. The Spurs do. They are very uninteresting. Not a single guy on the Spurs on DraftKings or FanDuel got to 10% ownership. Not a single, only one guy on DraftKings got to 10% optimal. That's Jeremy Sohan. He ranks 18th, 4,800. Power forward center. About 10% owned. Seems about right. I got 10%. Didn't get any more of that for anybody else. 7% of Keldon Johnson. 6% of Devin Vassell. A little bit of a pace down matchup here for San Antonio. These prices have sort of stabilized. Chris Paul is down in that like 20 to 22 minute range now. Barnes has come down a hair. Champagne's playing a decent chunk. Blake Wesley now in the rotation with Fox out. I don't know. A little bit of a sell, a little bit of Keldon, a little bit of Sohan run away. You guys like anything from the Spurs? They're a tough team for me. I miss Wemby, man. Really do. No Spurs bets for us, unfortunately. Is Castle going to be chalk for the rest of the season? Well, he's 2% owned today, so I'm going to go with no. Seems like a no. Eric, you know how chalk works. Chalk only exists if there's value in your salary. There's absolutely no reason Stephon Castle's price is going to end up in a weird spot. Champagne at 3,800. 1% optimal, 1% ownership, 17% chance of 29 fantasy points. Pass. Am I concerned with a blowout? No, never. You'll never hear me say a single word about a blowout affecting what I want to do. There's just nothing here. I would rank it Sohan, Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and those guys are all 10%ers at most. No priorities here. All right, let's keep it moving. Actually, let's do this. Final day of this, baby. Final day. This promo ends tonight at midnight. I've been showing the Portfolio EV tool on OddsShopper the entire show. Every team, we take a look to see if we have any bets available. You can get this tool right now for 68% off your first month. It's 1 percentage point off for every team that made the dance. $32 for the month. It's basically $1 a day. You could take a market-based approach to beating the books. It's not just for college basketball bets. NBA, it's NHL, baseball is here. Portfolio EV tool is loaded with recommended plays. You could go check out what everybody else at Stokastic is doing with this tool, whether that's Greg's Bankroll Challenge, Nathan, Eric, Laffy, Aton, who you guys are going to see in about 10, 15 minutes. It's the perfect time to get in. Whether you're on pick'em sites or sports books, you could take a market-based approach to beating the books. The link is in the description. The promo code is DANCE. Today is the last day that you could take advantage of this offer. It will go away tonight at midnight. So make sure you're getting those bets in because we're probably going to have a bunch of them throughout the college basketball season. If you guys want to sweat the tourney, this could help you guys do it. But it's not just college basketball. It's every sport you could want. Game 7, Washington Wizards. This is the number 2 priority team on today's slate. This is Oklahoma City East today. We are getting a lot of ownership because Keyshawn George is questionable. Corey Kispert done for the year. Middleton out. Marcus Smart out. Jordan Poole doubtful. That is creating 80% ownership to $3,500 AJ Johnson. And I don't really think that's going anywhere all day. AJ Johnson played 35 minutes last time out with no Marcus Smart and no Corey Kispert. I got him in for 29 right now. 29 minutes of AJ Johnson at 3,500. He's in 84% of my lineups. He is your number 1 play of the day. But we have 4 guys in the top 6. 20% ownership coming into $3,200 Colby Jones, who played 25 minutes last time out. Now, I don't know who the hell is going to get these minutes. Is it Colby Jones? Is it Jalen Martin? Is it Anthony Gill? I don't know for sure. But if you're giving Colby Jones north of 20 minutes, he's going to be 20+% owned pretty easy. Alex Sarr at 6,400 center only is 40% owned. He ranks 5th right now. I think that getting to someone like Alex Sarr is a pretty sizable priority today. He's in 57% of my lineups. Justin Champagnie is playing 30 minutes a night with these guys out. 5,500 power forward only. 5,400 small forward, power forward eligible. 6x value, 30% owned, 30% of my lineups. So this is the second most exposed team that I have. I think Champagnie, Sarr, and Johnson are major priorities today. I think Colby Jones could be, given his per minute rates, but we're probably going to need to wait that one out a little bit. I expect him to look a little different as the day goes on. But 3,200 shooting guard, small forward, it doesn't take much for him to be interesting, at the very least. Maybe Keyshawn George is out. He's questionable. That would free up 30 more minutes to distribute to these guys, and they are out of bodies. They don't have a lot left here. So we do need to be a little cautious, too. They don't have to play Sarr 30 minutes. They've got Vucevic here. They've got Holmes here. They've got Anthony Gill here. So Sarr does get a little scary, but I don't know how you get away from A.J. Johnson. Champagne, to me, looks great. This is just the other OKC team that I think we want to get to. I didn't mention Bub Carrington because I don't think he looks all that great. 5,300. The price tag is not beneficial. Point guard, shooting guard eligible. 2% optimal. I got 1%. I have no interest in Bub Carrington right now. Maybe that changes if Keyshawn George is out, but I don't think Bub Carrington's all that interesting. A.J. Johnson, though, heavy priority. Can't avoid him. Now, unfortunately, the pace of this show is going to pick up tremendously. I am not going to dig in too deep on much of this. Under 2.5 assists for Alex Sarr on Onyx odds as a 2-odd shopper rating. But we don't really have any ownership coming into the next 9 teams that we're going to talk about. For example, the Utah Jazz. No John Collins, no Walker Kessler, no KJ Martin, no Svi Mikhailiuk. No ownership. 4% to Colin Sexton. I got to 4%. That's the most of anybody. 3% optimal to Colin Sexton is the highest optimal rate for anybody on the Utah Jazz. I got nothing here. I don't expect to get to Kyle Filipowski at 6,200. I don't expect to get to Isaiah Collier. I don't expect to get to anything here for Utah. I don't think they look very good. They are 6% optimal. This is the third lowest aggregate optimal for a team. They're essentially a cross-off for me. It should be a great matchup. It just isn't. Maybe we get more Jazz news. Maybe somebody else ends up out. But they are flattening out their minutes, and their prices aren't that great. So full pass on the Utah Jazz. I have 5% total. So I'm not singing a tune that isn't represented by my stuff. Oh, baby. 9 odd shopper rating, under 5.5 boards on Lauri Markkanen on DraftKings. 4.3 EV and a positive historical ROI. You guys want to go grab that on DraftKings right now. Nothing here for Utah. Denver. 1-point favorites in Los Angeles. 232 total. Jokic questionable, Murray questionable, Christian Brown questionable. All I'm going to say here for Denver is that if Nikola Jokic plays at 12-9, regardless of the status of anybody else, he is 25% optimal, 15% owned, ranks 9th. He's in 37% of my lineups. I will be playing quite a bit of Nikola Jokic. If he's in, it doesn't matter what the status of Murray or Brown are. If they're out, he just looks better. If they're in, he already looks to me like one of the best guys you can get to. I'll pay that 12-9 price tag all day. We have infinite value. Get yourself Jokic. Very easy to do. After that, we need the Murray and Christian Brown status to know if we're getting to anything else. They're both out, then we probably pay attention to Russell Westbrook and Aaron Gordon a little bit more. Otherwise, to me, this is Jokic. Jokic. But 46% of all of the minutes for Denver are questionable right now. We need this news. 10 o'clock start. There are 8 teams locking at 10. You have plenty of late swap opportunities. Lakers. Q-tag on Trey Jameson. Still no LeBron. Still no Rui. 30% ownership to Luka Doncic. 12-5. 39% optimal, 30% owned. He's in 55% of my lineups. Whether it's Luka, whether it's Jokic, whether it's both, whatever you want to do with those two guys, they both rank in the top 10. We have infinite salary. So getting to Luka Doncic, getting to Nikola Jokic, not problematic in any way. Heavily owned for me, heavily over the field for me. No barrier of entry to get to the 2 best plays on the slate. Give me Luka Doncic. Don't really want much else for the Lakers. I think if you're going anywhere, it's Jordan Goodwin, 4,700, shooting guard, small forward eligible, 10% owned, 8% optimal. I think 10% of Jordan Goodwin is reasonable, but it's Luka and it's Jokic. Overwhelming best options from Denver and LA. Chicago Bulls, 6.5-point dogs in Phoenix, 235 total. For the Bulls, Josh Giddey is questionable. We still have no Lonzo Ball in this one. By the way, we have a under 25 and a half points on Austin Reeves as a 6 odds shopper rating, 4% EV on BetMGM. It's a fantastic play to grab if you guys want to grab it. For Chicago, there's no ownership coming into these guys. 5% to Vooch. He got the minutes I needed last time out, but he couldn't make a bucket to save his life. 5 to 10% of Vooch makes a lot of sense. If Josh Giddey is back, that takes a giant bite out of Kobe White, a giant bite out of Trey Jones, a giant bite out of Kevin Huerter. Even if Giddey's out, I don't think we're getting much out of Chicago here. It's a pace down spot against Phoenix. But nah, I'm good. Little bit of Vooch, nothing else. Vooch ranks 24th. Next closest guy for Chicago, 67th. So I'll have a little bit of Vooch. I'm a believer, especially in this matchup. But I won't have much else here for Chicago, that's for sure. Couple good bets for the Bulls. 4 odds shopper rating over 24.5 points for Kobe White. 3 odds shopper rating for under 6.5 assists for Josh Giddey. They're both on BetMGM. And then 2 odds shopper ratings. Vooch under PRA, Vooch under rebounds. They're both on DraftKings if you want them. All right, Phoenix. It's Booker and Durant. It's essentially nothing else. There's no ownership coming into anybody other than Booker and Durant. Booker and Durant are both 12% owned. They're both 10% optimal. Durant ranks 19th at 9,100. Booker ranks 27th at 9,200. Happy to get 10% of these guys because of the matchup. That's what's saving Booker and Durant. No Bradley Beal, no Grayson Allen, but when you get to face Chicago, horrible defense, giant pace up spot, they gain 2.8 possessions over their average. Yeah, I'm happy to get about 10% of Booker and Durant. I'm not happy to get to anything else from the Suns. I'm good on Iguodala. I'm good on Tyus Jones. I'm good on Royce O'Neal. I'm good on Ryan Dunn. It's 10% of Booker. It's 10% of Durant. And that's about it. The goal for both of them is 56 fantasy points. That is what you need out of Kevin Durant and or Devin Booker in order to feel like you had a successful rostering of those guys. Booker had 56 on March 7th against Denver. Durant's last game getting to 56 was March 4th against the Clippers. But, I mean, it's not a likely scenario. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see what else we've got. Uh-oh. Why is that music playing on my computer now? All right, let's mute that. Just in case. I hope my microphone didn't change. Talus, that's an excellent question. Let's find out who James Harden guarded the most yesterday. I wonder who it's going to be. No, I don't, because the answer is Evan Mobley. 16.2 partial possessions guarded James Harden. Evan Mobley was guarded by James Harden more than anybody else for Harden's defensive assignments. DeAndre Hunter was second. But Evan Mobley, top of the list of possessions guarded. What do I know, though? What do I know? That was fun. Had to talk about it. Appreciate you bringing that up, Trevor. But yeah. It was Mobley. For the record, never said Giannis had to win the slate. That's not how I look at this stuff. Just saying you guys should all play the best players and you guys overlook, or you guys think about ownership too much. That's all. Same message as today. Josh, did you check out the Portfolio EV Parlay Builder? Of course I did. It's even better now. All right, 2 more games to go. Let's zip through these pretty quickly. Memphis Grizzlies, 4.5-point favorites in Portland, 236 total. No ownership coming into Memphis. Q-tag Scottie Pippen. Q-tag Santi Aldama. Clearly, we need those 2 things. 20% of the minutes for Memphis are questionable. If all these guys are in, nothing from Memphis looks like a priority. I only got to 8% of Scottie Pippen if he's in at 4,800. Now, if they're both out, maybe we're paying a little bit more attention to Bane or Cam Spencer or Luke Kennard. But we need the status. And if they're both in, you're not getting to much here. I think Scottie Pippen's at least a little interesting if he's playing, but nothing crazy. Deuce Trey, that's because you just don't seem to understand what Harden is defensively. What's Evan Mobley going to do? You don't let Harden guard Mobley and Mobley can't do shit. Why would Mobley be able to do anything to James Harden? That's what I like. He wouldn't. That's why that matchup existed. James Harden can guard Evan Mobley. Hence the matchup. You know who he definitely can't guard? Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. And after that, you're just plumb out of places to put James Harden. But what's Mobley going to do? Was he going to beat him off the dribble? Come on. What are we talking about here? There's nothing for Memphis until we know their news. It's just not there. Now, the Portland side, still a little tricky. Tumani Kamara, questionable. Ryan Rupert, questionable. We are getting 15% ownership to Denny Avdia. Small forward, power forward, eligible, 7,300. He's in 22% of my lineups. He ranks 11th. Donovan Clingan's getting 10% ownership. I'm guessing he gets back up into that slightly higher minutes range, but we only got him in for 26 right now, 5,800, center only. I think Denny's a 20% guy. I think Clingan's a 10% guy. If Tumani Kamara ends up out, we might create a little bit more value here, but I think Denny and Clingan are interesting today no matter what. Talus. So you're thinking about it completely incorrectly. Evan Mobley can't play bully ball on the block with Harden. Harden's stronger than Evan Mobley. If Evan Mobley takes James Harden to the block, he's not moving him. James Harden is a better defender on the block than Evan Mobley is offensively. And that's not close. Could he beat him with skill and moves? Yes. But it is impossible for Evan Mobley to play bully ball on James Harden on the block. Portland priorities, Denny Avdia, Donovan Clingan. Need the news on Tumani Kamara. The final game of the day, folks. Cleveland Cavaliers, 5-point favorites in Sacramento, 234 total. Cleveland is on a back-to-back. We have no idea who's playing. Mobley was questionable yesterday. My guess is somebody's going to be sitting out here for Cleveland today. I'm not entirely sure who that's going to be. But if everybody's in, you're not playing anybody from Cleveland. Deuce Trey, what are we talking about here? James Harden's 6'5", 220. He weighs at least as much as Evan Mobley. His center of gravity is so much further below Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley's not moving James Harden. What are we talking about here? Anyway, for Cleveland, I'm not even going to bother. If they're all in, you don't play them. There's nothing here. If we lose some of these guys, we might have value. But they're on a back-to-back. They're the only team we don't have any injury news on. So I can't add anything here. And then for Sacramento, Domantas Sabonis is done. He's out. 3% ownership to Monk, 2% ownership to Jake LaRavia. There's absolutely nothing here for Sacramento. These guys' prices are still already a bit increased from when Sabonis was out. You still have Joval at 7,400. I don't think we're doing that. Highest ranked guy is Malik Monk at 43rd. I see nothing here for the Kings either. Not only has Harden guarded bigs for years, he exclusively guards them for years. Like since Houston, basically. 11 odds shopper rating DeMar DeRozan under 5.5 assists. That's what we're leaving you guys with. Hell of a show, folks. Appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget, dance promo, 68% off. Ends today. Link in the description. Get the portfolio EV tool for 68% off. $1 a day, $32 for the month. Come on in. Contenders coming out shortly. Go watch the Contenders video on YouTube. There might be a promo code in it for you guys. So, watch that show. Deeper dive later tonight at 5. Live before lock at 6. Greg and I on playback tonight at 7. And this is the slate for playback. I promise no porn tonight. Let's hope we don't get hacked. But you're going to want to be on playback for all this late swap ownership news. This is an awesome slate. I hope you guys love it as much as I do. We're going to crush it tonight with 3 straight hours of coverage. Good luck, everybody. Go tell Eitan I said hi.